Okay, so this is question 39, and this is from the SAT number 15. And this is from one of the paired questions, and let's go. So 39 says, based on the two passages, Douglas and Dana differ in their views of the effect of the Civil War, and that Douglas believes the war has something, and then we need Dana's view as well. So this is one of the questions in the paired passage that requires us to sort of identify, sort of notice a difference, right, between the two views. So let's jump in. So what we're looking for is views of the effect of the Civil War. Looking for views of the effect of the Civil War. So let's figure out how we can solve this. So first thing that I would do is I would go back to passage one, which I have the whole thing here, and I'm going to scan and look through it for anything that Douglas says about the Civil War. And so we'll go ahead and we can sort of scan through it. Now, just something you can do on your own, but when I was solving this one, I realized it's actually really hard to find a text, right? If you scan the Civil War, is not said here, and there's nothing that's very clear about the war. There's nothing very clear about a recent event. It's actually kind of hard to find out what the Civil War is. Down here is sort of going to be the text that we want to look at down here. However, it's actually kind of hard to identify that right off the bat. So then the next thing I say is, all right, well, maybe passage two has something that's more clear about Civil War. And if you can find something in passage two that's more clear about the Civil War, maybe we can match it to the second part of this and then use that to help us figure out what's going on with passage one. So we look again to passage two. It's also hard to find it from passage two, scanning, because I don't think Civil War is ever mentioned anywhere, right, in the capital letters. However, I remembered this sentence from the text, and it's something you can identify later, is besides all that, they, and this is Southerners, look upon the Negro as the cause of their defeat and humiliation. So this is how the South sort of feels about it. And admittedly, another thing that drew me to that is when I get stuck on finding a text, I do go back to the answer choices here and just sort of scan them. I'm not considering them too in depth, but I'm sort of looking at what are the things that they're talking about to give me an idea of what text I should look for. And you'll notice that if you look at the second part of Dana, he talks about, here, right, blame black men for the South. And if we look here, that matches this. Besides all that, we look upon the Negro as the cause of their defeat and humiliation. This starts to kind of get the gears turning. And then I start to think, okay, so A seems plausible because of this connection here. But then I look, at B, C, and D, and I say, okay, what's happening with what does Dana say in B, right? Believes that Southerners are beginning to recognize the important role Black workers can play in the post-war economy. And this is not what Dana says. Dana is not talking about the important role, right? Basically, he's saying that Southerners are downplaying the role that Black men can play in the post-war economy. It's kind of the opposite of his point, so we get rid of B. She says that Dana believes the war has encouraged white Southerners to see Black as equal. Again, this is totally against the point that Dana makes elsewhere in the passage, right? He thinks that they still see them as the inferior, right? They've been taught that the Negro is not fit for freedom, etc., and had they been converted in a day. So his thing is that no, they don't think that they're equal. And then D says that Dana believes that the rights of Black men will not be expanded until memories of the war begin to fade. This right here is a very specific claim. Memories of the war begin to fade. And we can look through the text, but this is something that might stand out for somebody to remember. Right? And it might seem plausible, right? If the war itself making Southerners blame Black men for their loss of the war, maybe civil rights can only move forward when the memories of the war begin to fade. That might be a connection to make, but it's too. We're starting to storytell a little bit too much. It's not in the text, so we can eliminate D. So in this case, just focusing on the second part of what Dana says sort of gets us to the answers here. Of course, we want to be sure that we're on the right track. So we already have evidence for the fact that the Southerners blame Black men for their South's defeat. But what about evidence that Douglas believes the war has created a political climate in which the extension of Black men's rights seems feasible? And what that should do is remind us of the end, right, where Douglas starts to say, this is the hour, right? So he's saying this is the hour for moving forward, the extension of Black men's rights. So that's the suffrage of Black men's rights, allowing Black men to vote, allowing Black men to be able to work the jobs that they want. And so created a political climate in which it seems feasible. This is the time. But still, it's like, where's he talking about how the Civil War? And I think it's here where he says, our streets are in mourning, tears are falling at every fireside, and under the chastisement of this rebellion, we've almost come up to the point of conceding this all important right of suffrage. So here he's sort of highlighting by talking about the rebellion, so highlighting referencing the Civil War, and he was saying this is the hour. So in any case, this is going to be the text there. But the answer choice for or the part about Dana is the part that's very important, right? Because that's clearly the text that will support this. So we choose answer choice 7.